the big battlegrounds,
yes.
you know, in this election, on the back, of course, of what happened in 2016 and the history we're all familiar with of what happened in Tshwane, what happened in Johannesburg, what happened in the Nelson Mandela Bay in particular. Prof?
Yes, indeed. We're all watching these metros, whether they're going to remain in coalition status, whether the balance between the parties are going to change. And all the indications at this stage are that they are going to remain in coalition statuses. And then the ANC, in some cases, except in Tshwane, etc., the DA was the bigger one of the two. Which one is going to be the bigger one of the two? And that remainder of the votes, so many eyes are going to be on that. Is there going to be a significant party like the EFF, or is it perhaps going to be Herman Mashaba's Action SA, etc., can the IFP resuscitate itself to form a significant chunk to help these parties? And these are difficult coalition partners that, you know, that can swing around on national political issues, on local political issues, and destabilize coalitions anytime. So the eyes are going to be on those ones. What fills that gap between the two major parties? And there, listening to President Ramaphosa just now, his appeal, yes, it was certainly neutral and appealing to everybody to vote, but a big factor that will be winning and losing tomorrow's elections is turnout. And we know that the ANC is generally advantaged by higher turnout, but both political parties have both had much at stake, the bigger ones, because it is about, they are not growing at this stage, they are shrinking, likely to continue. And what happens to that bit of shrinkage? To small political parties, all these dozens and dozens of them come into the picture, and should they, a set of small opposition parties, hold the balance of power between the big ones, in the metros in particular, it's such a vexed issue to get them governing stably and in the interest of the people, and as small parties and not as major kingmakers. And these are kind of issues that we'll be looking out for tomorrow.
Now, this phenomenon was new in 2016. Hopefully lessons have been learned over the past 5 years. But do you get a sense, Prof, that the big two in particular have actually thought about what they will do this time around, you know, in the event the electorate gives them, you know, these, you know, hung municipalities again?
Well, I think the DA has been a lot better than the ANC in handling these coalitions, partly because, in fact, this phenomenon is not new, it goes back to 2000, partly because there are a lot of these coalitions in the Western Cape. And heading towards 2016, for instance, at the NMB, Nelson Mandela Bay, the local leadership there went to Germany for lessons on how to do this thing. And one of the things they did, you know, was to talk, prior to everything else, talk to a few people, put together an agreement, laying out the process of what we need as coalition partners, what we need to agree on, what should happen in cases of disputes and this and that. So their initial coalition went fairly well in that part of the country. Unfortunately, they had a very cantankerous person in Bobani. It just could not work even with the best arrangement in place, right? So in other places, though, there are coalitions held, yes. Tshwane, EFF is a difficult partner to deal with, but generally they've done well. But what the last experience, the last 5 years specifically tells us, especially because we've now paid more attention on these coalitions, is that it works better with, yes, you will have small parties, but have bigger, middle-sized parties, so to speak. Parties with the potential for growth. You see, if you're a one-man party...
Which parties are we talking about here?
In
that category?
If you're a party with 1,000 or so votes, right, you manage to sneak in, you're not sure if you're going to come back the next time around. So what you do once you are there is to exploit that opportunity as much as you can. So they are not principled. They are looking at making as much money, positions, and influence as they. So they are very disruptive. They go with whoever they disrupt, just so that they can always be in a good position. However, if you have a party that has some potential for further growth, they know that their behavior now will count in the next election. So avoid your PA, nothing against PA, but avoid Marlon. I mean, Marlon is flip-flopper. Avoid, Eastern Cape Economic Front or whatever it is in PE. So all these small parties are bad news because they don't invest in the future. They think about the now, and that is why they tend to be so disruptive. But bigger parties, they know that if I do enough now to impress, the electorate might return me the next time around as the majority party. So for me, I mean, that would be some of the lessons. I mean, Sue edited a book on coalitions. I'm sure she can say a lot more on it.
I'll contribute.
Quick closing comment, Prof.
Yes, indeed. These parties are going to have to show their mettle. And yes, but who thought a few years ago that the PA would be winning by-elections of the DA? So there's actually a growth party there. It appeals to certain identity communities. It's going to be fascinating for me to watch to what extent the different type of identities, parties, people actually have been motivated by the parties to vote on identity issues. Identity is merging with political issues. But after all of the big exposure of deficits in services, gross deficits, many people are going to vote on which party generally is more likely to take care of me, even if nationally certain things were done. That is going to come into this equation. It's not just about the specific micro-local issues.
Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it for this evening. Professors Mcebisi Ndletyana and Susan Booysen.